This is VOA News. I'm Marissa Melton. U.S. President Donald Trump is amplifying remarks deemed as racist attacks on 4 Democratic members of Congress, all women of color, and is rejecting widespread criticism that his comments run counter to American values. Trump told reporters on Monday that it doesn't concern him because many people agree with him. Asked whether his comments were racist, Trump told White House reporters not at all. But the 4 women in question gave a news conference on Monday. They said they would continue to focus on the issues that matter to them, including treatment of migrants in U.S. custody. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley.
We ran on a mandate to advocate for and to represent those ignored, left out, and left behind. Our squad is big. Our squad includes any person committed to building a more equitable and just world. And that is the work that we want to get back to. And given the size of this squad and this great nation, we we will not be silenced.
On Twitter Sunday, Trump told the lawmakers to, in these words, go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came. That's the end of his quote. 3 of the 4 women, however, were born in the United States, and the 4th immigrated from Somalia, but is a naturalized U.S. citizen. Iran is threatening to restore its nuclear program to its status from before Tehran signed the 2015 nuclear deal with 6 world powers. If the Europeans and the Americans don't want to carry out their duties, according to state news agency IRNA, we will decrease our commitments and reverse the conditions to 4 years ago. That's a quote from the state news agency. The 2015 deal calls on Iran to slash its uranium enrichment in exchange for sanctions relief from the United States and 5 other signatories: Britain, China, France, Germany, and Russia. This is VOA News. The Trump administration is moving to block most asylum seekers at America's southern border. That's a move that would largely affect Central Americans who cross through Mexico. The administration's action, announced by the U.S. Departments of Justice and Homeland Security, bars people from applying for asylum in the United States if they traveled by land through another country where asylum was available. That's according to a 58-page federal document made public on Monday. In order to enter the United States, asylum seekers would have to show that they were denied relief in a third country, not their own and not the United States. Failing that, they'd be turned away. The rule is set to take effect on Tuesday and is expected to spark some swift legal challenges. An avowed white supremacist was sentenced to 419 years in prison on state charges for deliberately driving his car into anti-racism protesters during a white nationalist rally in Virginia. The AP's Ed Donahue reports.
James Alex Fields has already been sentenced to life in prison on federal hate crimes charges. One of the protesters in the crowd that day in Charlottesville 2 years ago was killed. Heather Heyer, Susan Bro, is her mother.
The situation started years ago and didn't end today, but I feel like he's at least in the hands of justice.
Constance Young was injured in Charlottesville. She wishes there was more force behind the prosecution.
White supremacists like James Fields are much more of a threat to me and people like me than ISIS or any foreign terrorists. Yet Mr. Fields was not prosecuted as a terrorist because our nation continues to minimize the brutality of white supremacy.
President Trump sparked controversy at the time when he blamed the violence at the rally on both sides. I'm Ed Donahue.
2 leading UN agencies report nearly 20 million children worldwide, that's more than 1 in 10, were not vaccinated against killer diseases such as measles, diphtheria, and tetanus in 2018. Lisa Schlein reports from Geneva.
Global life-saving vaccine coverage remains at 86%. This is high, but the World Health Organization says it is not high enough. It says 95% coverage is needed to protect against outbreaks of vaccine-preventable diseases. The worldwide measles outbreak is the most alarming example of what can happen when vaccine coverage falls below 95%. Most unvaccinated children live in the poorest countries, especially in fragile or conflict-affected states. Lisa Schlein for VOA News, Geneva.
Hong Kong's pro-Beijing leader Carrie Lam on Monday said anti-government protesters who fought running battles with police inside a Hong Kong shopping center were rioters. Lam said police and prosecutors will press charges following investigations of the protests that took place over the weekend. The protesters were calling, among other things, for Lam's resignation. I'm Marissa Melton. This is VOA News.